All right, welcome to the Franchise Empire Show. So today we're going to talk about one of the most important and impactful topics that can have the biggest impact on you and your family's life. And the topic is money. So if you are like most, then the money conversation triggers a mix of emotions for you. And if you didn't know, there is a massive problem right now when it comes to money in our country. Now, don't run from the conversation. Your instinct may be to run because it feels uncomfortable. I know that I have many times. But this is how you grow. So step into this with me, and you'll have the opportunity to completely transform your financial health and wealth. But before we dive in, here's some data. We recently experienced the highest inflation since 1982, peaking at over 8%. 30% of Americans say they're struggling with money. 83% of business owners make less than $100,000 a year. 30% of entrepreneurs take no salary. And by retirement age, the average American only has $255,000 saved up for retirement. So what you're about to watch or listen to on this podcast episode, and if you're on a podcast platform, is a training that we did for our franchisee mastermind group. So this group is not yet open to the public. It's only for franchise owners who have come through our zero to profitable franchise system. Now, because this topic is so important, I'm pulling back the curtain and I'm letting you in on the training. So if you get value and you're on YouTube, give the video a thumbs up, drop a comment if you're on YouTube. It's completely free. It costs you absolutely nothing to do so. If you're on a podcast platform, give us a quick rating and a review. A lot of times you can just hit the 5 stars and that's it. Takes you 2 seconds. Again, doing this helps us grow the podcast. And again, it costs you absolutely nothing. Now, last thing before we hit play on this private training, if you are a franchisee and you want to be put on the wait list for when we do open up our franchisee only mastermind group to the public, you can go to theprofitablefranchisee.com. The link will also be in the comments, whether on YouTube or a podcast platform. I hope you enjoy the episode. Today, I wanted to talk about a topic that I think is very interesting to everyone, and probably the topic that I feel the most excited and I guess qualified to talk about because of my background, which is money. So for those of you who don't know, I actually, I spent many years in financial services. I had my investment licenses for 15 years, and I love talking about money. And, at the end of the day, money makes the world go round. And I have a funny quote in here that I'll share. I think I might have said it on one of the masterminds, but I just thought I really was thinking about what topic would provide value to everyone in the mastermind, no matter where they are at whatever stage in the game, whether you're just starting out, whether you're further along. And in my experience and having been a financial advisor and worked with, over 1,000 clients, is that no matter how successful or smart or how many degrees someone has, it's very common where people will sweep kind of money under the rug and like not intentionally plan, or just life gets in the way. And it's just kind of one of those things where you're not very intentional about it. So I thought it would be a really fitting topic for today. And I'm excited to dive into it. So, and as always, these are interactive. So if you have something to chime in, or, want to throw your insights or throw something in the chat, feel free. Cool. So, in regards to money, so ultimately, having a passion for your business is great, but a losing venture can destroy passion very quickly, right? So, which is why I tell people on the buying side to focus on a business that you have conviction in and that you're not passionate about. Because like you could be passionate about something one day, and a year from now, your passions can change or shift, or something that you love doing. Once you turn it to a business where you need to make money from it, it can remove the passion from it, right? So we want to make sure that we're making money, that we're profitable, that we're thriving, and that we have a plan and a strategy, not only around our business finances, but then how that relates to our personal finances and vice versa, because it's all connected. And so, as my mom would say, I'm not doing this for my health. My mom used to say that when I was little, which I thought was funny. So you're not doing your business for your health. Maybe in some sense you are, in an abstract way, but like you're not doing it just to do it. You're doing it to make money, right? You're doing it to support your family, and you generate money, and then you're able to then do things with that money, support your family, have fun stuff, take care of your health. And so you're in business to make, keep, and grow your money. And so ultimately, your ability to manage and grow your profitability will have the greatest impact on your quality of life or lack thereof as an entrepreneur. Okay, so mind your business and your money. So there's two kind of basic elements that are obvious but important, right? Which in your plans and your strategy and your execution that you need to plan for, which is your business finances and then your personal finances. But both are intertwined and both impact everything else, right? And so to have a strategy for your business finances, you need to have a strategy for business finances, and then you need to have a strategy for your personal finances as well. And when you start getting into the deeper financial planning of it, they're very, very intertwined. When you start thinking of things like retirement plans and whether you have just a traditional IRA, or if you're going to set up a SEP IRA, or you're going to set up a 401k for the business, or how you handle your healthcare cost, et cetera. So all of these things are very intertwined.
So I get multiple emails a week from companies asking to run ads on the podcast. I could have ads if I wanted to, but I don't. So there are two ways that you can help to support me and the podcast to keep it ad-free. First is to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, even a smiley face if you have nothing to say. The YouTube algorithm only shows the video to more people based on the likes and comments on the video. So your comment could help someone get exposed to this, and not to sound too cheesy, but it could legitimately change their life. Lastly, go ahead and share this with someone that you think will enjoy this episode. Maybe someone who loves business and entrepreneurial stuff, or maybe it's someone who's been saying that they want to own their own business for forever. You can message it to them directly or share it on your social media. It would mean the world to me. You guys rock. Enjoy.
And so the first thing to think about in terms of money and finances is really like, what's your financial conditioning, AKA your money mindset. And here's what's interesting. Actually, after I read this off real quick, I'll share this point, which is so Rachel Cruz, which is a part of the Ramsey, one of the Ramsey personalities, Dave Ramsey personalities, she says your money mindset is your unique set of beliefs and your attitude about money, and it drives the decisions you make about saving, spending, and handling money. Here's what I found very interesting in the many years of being a financial advisor, is that having money does not mean that you feel good about money. Or having money doesn't mean that you feel secure around money. And so having a business that's successful, that's producing income, you may have got into business because you want to experience more financial freedom, more control over your future, et cetera, et cetera. But you may find that maybe you're going in the opposite direction, maybe in an emotional manner, and maybe initially, as you're growing your business, in actual digits. And so a huge part of it becomes, how do you control not just your money mindset, but your emotions that you experience around money? So here's what I experienced as an advisor, is that I would be sitting across from people who had a lot of money, a lot of portfolios, they've saved all of their life, lived very frugally, and they're still scared to spend their money. Or they still feel stressed out financially. And at some point, they're 70, 80 years old, still feeling broke, still feeling stressed, but they have money in the bank, right? And so the reality is that you experiencing less stress around finances is more of an inner game than it is an outer game. Because most people will experience the same level of stress or scarcity or fear or worry around money, whether you have a little or you have a lot. And I speak this from experience, right? I'm not immune to this. And so the mindset part is the biggest foundation, especially in your business, especially if your business has swings in cash flow, and being able to get to a firm place emotionally around that and then be able to deal with it strategically and tactically. And so the way that you grew up and what you experience with money will have a strong impact on the way that you feel and the way that you behave around money, right? So I know my parents were always stressed out about money, or we don't have enough money, et cetera. Those were all the things that were said around the house. So for me, no matter what is happening, I often feel this stress around money, even when there's a lot of it. And it's like, we're like really looking inside, like, where is this feeling coming from? This is interesting. Why am I feeling this way? Right? Anyone can relate to any of this? Like, is any of this striking a chord? Cool. All right. So we'll dive into more tactical and strategic stuff, but this stuff's really important to really kind of set the stage and framework about this overall. Thanks, Kareem. Is to really to be aware and present to what you feel and believe about money. So as you think about over the last year, and you don't need to share it, but just think about how many times have you felt stressed out or worried about finances, and that has impacted like your day, like in some sort of significant way, where like now you're not able to be as present with your family because you're sitting there thinking and worrying, right? Or you're not able to think clearly in your business because your judgment is clouded, right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, not cool, but thanks for sharing, Dallas. And so, part of the shift is, right, like starting to develop good money mindset and habits, right? Where maybe you allow yourself the freedom to spend, but you also have the discipline to tell yourself no to purchases. And these are some of the things that I talked about: constantly feeling stressed about money, where you have it or not, or find yourself constantly trying to play catch up financially. Or this is a very common one with people at all success levels, which is just sweeping finances under the rug and having no intentional financial planning or strategy. This was very common with, I worked with like a lot of teachers and doctors. And so these individuals were very intellectually, very, very smart, but they would just avoid financial decisions. Like they would just avoid doing anything because when you feel out of control, the natural tendency, or feel worry, the natural tendency is to avoid it instead of to deal with it and confront it. And so, but what happens is change happens typically through pain. So think about some of the times in your life where you've like made a decision to make a change. It typically comes through pain. So experiencing a pain, confronting the pain, and then leveraging that pain to change, right? So someone goes like, if they're, super, let's say overweight or something like that. Finally, they go, I'm sick of this. I'm going to get in shape. I'm sick of not having energy. I'm sick of blah, 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 blah. Right. And then they decide to make shift. So let's continue. So if you can't manage your emotions around money, then how much you have does not matter. Okay. So it's really the first step is really about managing your emotions about money. There's some really great books on this and some really great tools out there. If you want some recommendations, happy to provide those. But shifting into kind of the more esoteric to the more strategic and tactical, which is to make a commitment and take action on actually creating a financial vision and a plan. So I'm curious, how many of you feel like maybe your financial plan needs a little bit of love? So meaning if you don't know like exactly what's coming in and what's going out, exactly how much you're saving and investing, or exactly what like your investment portfolio is, how it's allocated, you feel comfortable with that. Like you feel confident around like your tax strategy. All right, cool. Lori raised her hand, Kareen. Yeah. All right, cool. So it takes a lot of intentionality. My wife and I recently hired a new financial planning company, and it was like a process. It gets them everything that they need, and really just do that process. And we created some trust, some family trust, and there's really uncomfortable questions that come up when you're doing this planning. But right now, if you got hit by a car, like, is your family set up to get your business properly and for it to pass through efficiently? Like, do you have life insurance in place so that if something happened to you and maybe your spouse could not run your business, or your significant other, like, are they in a position to be protected, right? So having that plan in place will give you more peace of mind to focus on your business, because if these things aren't in place, it's running back there in your subconscious. It's popping up and it's affecting you in your day. You may not realize it, but it is. And so part of that is to proactively seek out new information around, number one, money, beliefs around money, attitude and strategies to get you to where you want to be financially. And I say be in quotation marks, because again, most people think, okay, if I make X number of dollars, then I'll feel better, right? Has anyone ever had that before? Like that thought, like, okay, like earlier in your career, like once I make this amount of money, like, okay, then I'll feel secure. And then how many of you, like, you hit that amount of money at some point and then you're like, crap, I'm still not feeling it, right? And so again, it's less about a number and more about a way of being. I have a very good friend of mine, a couple, and they are now like, they're crushing it. I mean, they've been entrepreneurs for a while. They live in like a $3.5 million house. I mean, they're just like, they're rolling in it. And they're the type of people, like, in order to buy a $3.5 million house, like they have to be able to easily afford it. So they're crushing it. And the wife, she still experiences stress on a daily basis about money. Like we had a conversation about it. It was like really interesting. And a lot of it's based on your personality style, because you usually have a spender and a saver in the relationship. So like, I'm the saver, I'm the financial stressor in my relationship. My wife is like more liberal with the spending and the, that sort of thing, right? So getting on the same page with your spouse too is key. And definitely if you have a business partner, right? Like that's super key. And I'm sure, Adam, you've probably had many conversations about finances just in having, your business partner and having to intentionally plan around those things, because it's like, if something happens to one of you, like that plan has to be in place. But if you and your partners, whether relationship or business partner, are on in the same place, man, it can really kind of wreak havoc.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast episode so far. One of the most consistent things that we hear from people that reach out to us is that buying a franchise feels really confusing. There's so many options out there. It's a scary decision. They don't know how to vet or do the due diligence or really narrow down on the right franchise for them. And then they really feel alone in the process. You might be the only one in your family who's ever pursued buying a franchise or being an entrepreneur. Or maybe you've tried to start a side hustle before, or other businesses like me. Like before franchising, I was not able to crack the code on entrepreneurship. I'd like to invite you to reach out and work with us. We've helped many clients buy franchises, get them profitable, or buy resale businesses that are thriving. I'm talking about highly profitable resales, great value. We've allowed many of our clients to actually quit their job right away and replace their income immediately. So if you want to work with me and my team on finding or buying a franchise, doing due diligence, vetting it, or resale, then go ahead and go to tarzjohnson.com/consulting, and we're happy to see if we can help. All right, enjoy the rest of the episode.
Okay, so just a couple things that I want to hit on real quick. And again, these are all basic, obvious things, but it's kind of that phrase of people go, I know we should be doing it, but it's like, are you doing it, right? Because there's no, the value is not in knowing, the value is in the application and doing, right? And so number one is to make sure for your business that you are reviewing your profit and loss statements monthly. We've talked about this a bunch of times in here, so I'm not going to hammer on this too much, but my suggestion would be to schedule a recurring meeting, on your calendar so that it's there. So as an example, my profit and loss statements aren't generated until the 10th of the month by my accountant. So like I know that my recurring meeting needs to be after the 10th of the month. And so as you're looking at it, like you want to ask yourself, what worked well? Like what worked? and maybe you have to really dig deep on it here some months. What needs to change? Okay, so as I'm looking at this profit and loss statement, what needs to change on here for me to get to where I want to be, right? And then what's the low-hanging fruit? So when I had the stores, the low-hanging fruit was labor because it was the easiest controllable cost that had the biggest impact to the bottom line. And so this is where you want to think in terms of percentages, in terms of focus, because, if you're doing $600,000 a year in sales and you run just 2% over on labor, that's $12,000 in profit gone off your bottom line by just 2%. Just 2% every day. Just like your target, let's say your target's 25% labor and you run at 27 and you're lenient on it. 2% costs you $12,000 to the bottom line. And so it's important to look at month over month in terms of percentages so that you can make the best decisions. Because if you look at it just in terms of dollars and cents, it's hard to really understand the numbers. This all making sense so far? Cool. All right. So then what I recommend is to convert your profit and loss statement. And so if it gets distributed to you as an Adobe, as a PDF, convert it to a spreadsheet or have a pro forma so that you can mess with the numbers, right? And so what you can do is start to project out various scenarios. Okay, great. All right. So if we increase sales by 5% and kept labor the same percentage, what would that do to us? Or if sales stay the same, then we just adjusted and tweaked these controllable costs by 1% here, 1% here, what would that do? And then all of a sudden you feel more control and empowered in your business because all of a sudden you're able to squeak out or generate, more profits, maybe not even doing more work, like just being more tactical in your business overall. And then asking yourself, like, what would it take to get yourself to your profit targets? It's really, really powerful to be able to actually play with the numbers and adjust it. Most people just look at their profit and loss statements. They don't actually like dial into the numbers and start playing with different scenarios and then using those scenarios to drive their actions. If you do it, it can be a game changer in your business. And then once you get to a certain point in your business, even before that, what's your plan on how you take distributions from your business? And some people go, I don't know. Once it makes money, I'll take some money out. But how much? And when it's making how much will you take? Is it a percentage of profits that you'll take? Is it a flat amount? How do you make that distribution to yourself? Right? And so are you taxed at, like, do you have an LLC that's taxed as an S Corp and you have to take a salary? And then you take additional distributions above and beyond that? Are you just an LLC and you just take pure distributions? Like, how does that work, and what's your plan on how you do that? Not only what's your plan, but have you discussed that plan with your tax person to figure out how that will impact you in your business and your tax scenario overall? So one of the things over the last 18 months, my wife and I have gotten very, very, very intentional about our finances and our planning and the way that we do things. I'll share more about it on a little bit on the next page when I kind of talk about that. Cream said work on increasing sales to reduce percentage of cost area. Yeah, I feel that, and in most cases, like that solves so many problems, like increasing sales, because either way, like your rent's your rent, right? So like you have fixed costs that you really can't change, and you have minimum staffing. Like you can't go below one person, and sometimes you can't even go below two, because like the store wouldn't be able to run, right? And I remember this when I was turning around my store that I bought in Florida. And I'd need a robot. Yeah, but those things are expensive. I mean, you'll pay up front a good 25, 40 grand up front, but you'll get it over the long term. But yeah, increasing, and this is one of the reasons why, part of why I say that that I don't want to go back to food again, because food is just particularly tough. It's a particularly tough business with really, really tight margins. Right. And so all of that effort and all of that, you could get a higher ROI on that effort, maybe in a different, type of business, but you are in what you are. So you got to deal with, right, like the cards that you're dealt, at the moment overall. And then it's really about having a set calculation of how you decide to pay yourself, and what's your, what your calculation method is. And again, some of this stuff, it seems so obvious, but it's just typically, in my experience and working with small business owners, it's just people wing it. And they just wing it. They don't really have a plan around it, or a criteria around it. And then know your EBITDA, your earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation. Like, know your number, and then whatever your cost of debt is too. It's a mistake that I see people make, where like they're just confused by their numbers. They don't like fully understand it or see it in a clear way, like every month, right? And so like, what's the bottom line? And then after your loan payments, like, what does that look like? And watch it. Even if the number's red, watch it so that you can focus on it. Again, the pain of seeing the red number you'll utilize that pain to make a shift, right? But again, it's like if you don't step on the scale, it becomes very easy to just like avoid it. Like, I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. People would do that. My clients with finance would do that all the time. They wouldn't even open their statements. Like, if they had like other investment accounts or whatever, like they didn't want to deal with it. So they just wouldn't even look at it. And then put a percentage of your creepy Apple Watch. Put a percentage of profits away for taxes in a separate account. So choose a specific percentage and then put it away in a separate account. So I actually use this as a forced savings for myself, as well as what I do is I actually take a flat percentage of sales and put it in a tax account. So I don't even do it by profits. I just do a flat percentage of sales. And what happens is there's no chance I'm going to pay that much taxes. And so over the last 2 years of my business, I've way, way oversaved on the tax account. And that's wound up building up like a forced savings account. And now I've gotten in the habit of doing it. But don't be in the position where you're like, oh crap, I got this tax bill. And I don't know how I'm going to pay it. All right, things to know. These weren't all supposed to roll out. I thought I had it spaced out to roll out one sentence at a time, but I guess I'm just dumping it on to you guys. So one, for those of you who are newer in your businesses, and some of the folks who will watch the recording of this, make sure you know about quarterly estimated taxes. Most new entrepreneurs don't know about it. So if you're supposed to be making quarterly estimated tax payments, make them. So you don't have to pay penalties. It was something as a new entrepreneur, I didn't know about. It's so different than being an employee. You don't know that, oh, okay, I'm making money. I'm supposed to be paying the government quarterly, actually. Got it. Sales tax, I think there was someone in the mastermind who didn't realize they were supposed to be paying sales tax, so they had to play catch up for a couple months because of it. So just definitely make sure you're on par with sales tax and changes in your municipalities. There was a point where there was a slight change. I think there was like a 0.5% change for my California store, and somehow I missed it. And I think it was at the Florida store, and I missed it for like 6-8 months. So we hadn't changed it in our point of sale system. And like, I had to go back and I had to cover, like, it wasn't like a crazy amount of money, but it was money that I had to come out of pocket that we did collect the tax that I had to pay because we were collecting the wrong amount, which sucked, by the way. Now speaking from experience there, or he's got a friend that told him about it. Preparing yourself for a loan. This is super important. This is where Bridge and I were very, very, very intentional, is that as you're making money in your business, you want to have write-offs, but you don't want to have too many write-offs if you're planning on buying something, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you need to have, if you're just solely an entrepreneur and using your entrepreneurial income, you need 2 years of tax returns in order to get a loan. When I say a loan, like a mortgage. So if you're like planning on buying a property or an investment property or whatever, or anything like that, you typically need 2 years of history. So you'll then need to plan around that. So Rich and I had to be really strategic around making sure that we didn't write off too much in the business or throw in a bunch of personal stuff, because we knew that, okay, hey, we're planning on buying another house at this point in time, and we need to make sure that we show at least X number of dollars in profit between the two of us, so that when we go to buy the house, like, we can actually get a loan. There's so many entrepreneurs that make this mistake. They write off the hell out of things, and then they go buy a house, and they're like, sorry, you can't get a loan. Like, what do you mean you can't get a loan? I'm making money. Yeah, but your tax returns show differently. Your profit and loss statements may show it, but depending upon how you do your tax returns, they may not. And depending upon how the bank underwrites you, it could be very difficult. So it's super important. And then retirement plan. So, as you shift towards your income being fully from entrepreneurship, really being strategic and tactical about setting up retirement plans from the beginning. And especially if you have a team and staff, like, so someone like Adam, who has a big team and a lot of employees, like, the planning that he does around what retirement plan, if any, would be appropriate for his business is going to be very different than for those of you guys who may not have as many employees, because there are ERISA rules around retirement plans where you have to include certain employees. You can't just give yourself the benefit. So there's plan rules around it where if they're with you for, let's say you can make certain rules, like they have to have worked full time for you for the last 3 out of 5 years to be eligible. So there's eligibility requirements that you can put in place. Or if you create a 401k plan and you set up a matching, like, you got to match everyone who's contributing to the plan. So there are specific rules around these plans where you need to be cognizant of it. Something like a food business where you won't have any of those issues, because you would be able to weed out all people with the eligibility requirements, just because of the nature of the turnover in that sort of business, right? But you have something like a SEP IRA, which is what's called a self-employed pension IRA. And I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds of kind of the structure of all these things, but you can either put in 20% of your compensation or up to $66,000 a year max. And, it's usually I think it's the lesser of the two. So as an example, if let's say you pay yourself as an S corp and you have to pay yourself what's called a reasonable compensation salary, and let's say you say, okay, the reasonable compensation if I were to hire this type of person would be, $75,000 a year. Well, that's your compensation, and you can only contribute to your SEP IRA 25% of that amount. So that's $18,750. So in order to pay yourself contribute 66 grand, like you would be having to pay yourself a pretty significant amount of money to be able to go up into some of the higher bands. The other cool part is you have until April 15th, similar to a regular IRA, to make that contribution. So what we do is, we put the 25% max in either way, but we just take a look and see, okay, where are we in terms of our taxes, and then just kind of plan around all of that in terms of the money we've allocated for taxes, how much taxes we actually have to pay, what amount we're then going to contribute into the retirement plans, and then other things that is made around it. But you can see what your tax liability is and then make a contribution, up until basically when you're filing your taxes. You have a lot more flexibility if you have a SEP IRA. If you have a 401k, you don't have the flexibility to wait until April 15th. You have to make your contributions by December 31st. Now, there's also a plan called the solo 401k that would probably be appropriate for many of the folks that have like smaller businesses and don't have a bunch of full-time employees that might be there a couple of years. And a solo 401k is more designed for like a solo entrepreneur. And there's some different rules around it. Cool. All right. So the question is, what financial strategies do you need to implement? And so maybe you got some ideas off of this, presentation overall, specifically, or maybe this triggered some things that we didn't even discuss in there around financial strategies that you want to implement. But yeah, what did you guys think of that topic? And was that helpful at all? Hey, so I really hope you got value out of this episode of the Franchise Empire Show. Now, a couple things that I wanted to just mention to you. Number one, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment and let me know what sort of videos or content that you would like to see or have us cover on the Franchise Empire Show, or if there's specific guests that you want to hear from. We love to hear from you guys, and we want to give you content that is relevant to you and that you enjoy. Now, the other thing is that if you are currently a franchise owner and you feel like you want help and you want to be around another group of franchise owners that aren't just in your franchise system, and you want to learn from top speakers and get insider trainings like the one that we did here today, then you can go to theprofitablepfranchisee.com. You can join our waitlist, and we'll let you know when we have some spots available. Again, thank you so much for just supporting the channel. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.